Hey guys, it's Silsa here and welcome back to another video where today I'm going to be, well, it's another theorizing video. I know I do them all the time, but I have stuff to say and I have things that I'm thinking. And it's about Eren again, but this time it's related to the Ultima and like the red eyes and the whole like werewolf turning thing. And even though Eren wore the blindfold all the time, we now realize why he wears the blindfold, which is kind of interesting because we never really knew why. In like Minecraft Diaries, when we first met Eren, or like the stranger, he was always wearing the blindfold, he never took it off. And now we know that he was in Ultima and that he could turn people into werewolves if he did it long enough, or if he like had his red eyes out and he stared at somebody long enough. But my question is, like, even though like the dad is always like, Eren, you can't like you can't become close to people because then you'll turn them into werewolves and then you'll ruin my company and then whatever. But like, I don't know if Eren knows when if his eyes are red. I'm gonna assume that he doesn't because I think he would know because like in the scene where he was fighting Ian and the end of Phoenix Drop High Season 2, he like turned. I'm pretty sure he purposely turned, and he was like, he knew that he was becoming like, he turned into like his Ultima, well, he turned into his form. But I mean, Jason did say that Eren didn't know that his ears were out in the end of the here it says, for those asking questions, Eren did not notice his ears were out in the finale of Phoenix Drop High. So when he says that he didn't notice that his ears were red, I'm guessing he means like, oh, he didn't notice that his eyes were red as well. And my question is, like, if Eren figured out like the triggers for when the red eyes come and he gave himself like a sign, I don't know if there's a way he can like actually tell himself like, oh, I'm in my position now of where my eyes are out, I need to like take it easy and take a breath. Like, because it's not like if Eren has red eyes and he just looks at somebody like just regularly without like focusing, they'll turn into a werewolf. Because in the fighting scene with Ian, his eyes were red, but Ian didn't turn into a werewolf until like I guess in this case scenario when Emerald Mine Street, he could reverse the werewolf, so he turned Ian back into a human by staring at Ian for long enough with the red eyes. And the thing is, if Eren knows when he has the red eyes, he just has to know not to make eye contact with people long enough. Like, I assume it takes like a couple seconds. He has to like really stare at them and make sure that he should know like what he's gonna do. If Eren like purposefully, I guess if he, in the scenario where he was like in the bed at the end of Emerald Mine Street and he like had the red eyes and he like looked at Aphmau without knowing that his eyes were red for too long, she could turn into a werewolf. But like, if he knew like, oh, he gave himself a cue, like, this is when my red eyes are here, I need to control them, I need to take a breath, I need to close my eyes, then there would be no problems. The question is that Eren doesn't know when his eyes turn. I'm gonna assume because he does it accidentally in most case scenarios, like he doesn't know and somebody points it out, or he just doesn't like do that, because I think the control range for when people turn into werewolves, like accidentally and purposefully, is very strict. Like, Eren has to make sure, like, this is what I want, this is who I'm gonna turn into a werewolf, or I'm gonna reverse it the other way. Because, like, wouldn't it make sense, because Eren was yelling at his dad, that he would reverse the effects on his dad and turn him back into a human? If that's the case scenario, because he's looking at him and he's yelling at him with his eyes, and yet he doesn't turn back into a werewolf, and neither does Ian, because he's staring at Ian, he's fighting him and stuff. It could have just been like it was not long enough scenario, but to me it seems like if Eren really wanted to turn somebody, he'd have to do it purposefully and know, or he would like he would have to really not know that his eyes were like, they were active, and he just stared at somebody for too long. Because to me it seems like he has to actually like know that his eyes are like active, and he actually has to stare at them and make sure that he maintains eye contact, and that they'll turn into a werewolf, or they're turning back into a human. So that's why to me it's kind of funny that like Aphmau is like Eren's like the dad used a term for it.
You You were the reason why. He didn't want to hurt you. You soothed him.
When he hears her voice, his eyes go away and he's fine. But, like, the thing is, even if... I don't know. Maybe it's more of a case, like, not that he actually turns people into werewolves. I think it's just the case of if people saw his eyes, they'd wonder. Like, if he was hanging out with a friend or something and then his eyes just all of a sudden just got red, like, then they would be like, wait, why are your eyes red? And then questions would be brought up and newspapers would start knowing, and that's what the dad fears. So maybe that's more of the case scenario rather than just I would accidentally stare at somebody and they would turn into a werewolf and then it would prove that Ultimas aren't real. But that's the thing though, like, the red eyes, like, turning people into werewolves and turning them not into werewolves is very strict. It's very, like, he needs to do it purposefully, otherwise it's most likely not gonna happen, because like I said, in many case scenarios, he would have already turned people into werewolves. Like, he either would have reversed or turned them into werewolves. He would have turned Ian into a werewolf, or he would have made him a human in the fight scene at the end of Phoenix Drop High Season 2, because he definitely stared at him with his eyes. Like, it's pretty dang obvious. So why didn't he get reversed? And that's why they're making the connection, like, oh, it has to be purposeful. He's not actually physically and mentally trying to make Ian a human. He's just, like, it's just there. But in Emerald My Street, he purposefully looked at him in the eyes, and then he reversed the werewolf thing. So to me, it seems like if his eyes turn, the only thing that would be bad would be that if he didn't know, and just the sight of and the thought of people seeing his eyes without any, like, not trusting the person or without any, like, context of why his eyes are red would spread all over the world and ultimately be found out as real. And then I'm guessing his father would lose business, and then people would be afraid of werewolves again, because the Ultimas were, like, the big pack, or they were, like, the biggest group of the leader of the werewolves, and they were, like, the ones that were said to be anymore, like, they were all dead, or there were no more left in the world, like, the legacy was dead, because Aphmau had said that pretty much that Ultimas were, they were a myth, they weren't real.
The information I'm looking for isn't here. What kind of information? Stuff about the Ultima. Honestly, it really does seem like a fairy tale. There's no history on them, and the only information is in books that are literally under the category fairy tale.
So she was trying to figure out more about why Ultimas are Ultimas, but there really was no information because they never gave information about the Ultimas, and the only things that were found about Ultimas were the fairy tales, and then the fairy tales always said that Ultimas weren't real. And that's why Aaron and Melissa and Aaron's dad and Aaron's mom live in this, like, bubble where nobody knows them very well, or at least they don't ever show their ears, or they don't ever get to know people that well, because they're afraid of making the Ultimas real again.
You don't think I went through the same thing? I kept my distance from everyone when I was your age. Even with your mother. I continued to do that till this day.
I think, to some extent, Aaron has been obviously Aaron has been pushed way too hard by his dad. It's so bad to the fact that even he can't go to freaking... He was going to be forced off to a military school, and his dad wouldn't let him get close to anybody. And yet, he still got close to Aphmau. But, like, I think there were a lot of easier ways to resolve this than just, like, being like, you can't be close to anybody. He even hired personal security for him. Like, geez, that must be so freaking hard. Like, how can you just live a life where you're always stuck in this immortal bubble of just this legacy that you don't even exist, or that your culture doesn't even exist, and you can never be friends with anybody? But, like, I think it would have just been easier. Like, Aaron already wore the blindfold, and I think, like, making Aaron do certain exercises, like, outside of school, like learning how to know when the eyes are happening and when they're not happening, or when you want to make them active and when you don't, when you know, like, the cues for when they're actually when your eyes are there. Because there's always triggers for these things, like exactly like anxiety. Like, you have trigger words, you have trigger subjects that can make you give you a lot of anxiety, just like Eren. Eren's eyes comes when he's getting very protective, I guess, because in Phoenix Star High, the end one, the season 2, his eyes got all red when he looked towards the guards and towards the security guards that were looking for him. And I just don't think Eren understands he doesn't understand his boundaries of where the eyes come in and when, and he doesn't know his own triggers, I think is what I'm saying. He doesn't know when they're coming and when they don't. And that's a big issue of why it's dangerous for him to be friends with people. With Aphmau, it's a completely different story, because whenever Aphmau is around him, as long as she's talking, and he's not like super mentally unstable, like he's in some kind of like medical condition, which he was in Emerald Mine Street, he should be fine around her. That's my biggest guess. That's why it worked out with Aphmau, because he found sort of like a cure through her, and that he can't actually bring himself to harm her or make her a werewolf unintentionally.
You will make her a werewolf. I will not. A potion werewolf is not a pure one. She needs to be cleansed of her disgusting humanity. Never! I will never make her a werewolf against her will.
Because she can actually like relax him or make his eyes not happen because of a personal connection, I would only assume. Like a relief thing. But in it, like, I think like certain things that the dad could have done besides just literally cutting off all like I would say circulation, but that's kind of a weird word. Cutting off all like path routes to people around the things, because like in Emerald Mine Street, when he has the flashbacks, he has one where he's at the school and he goes and these guys were like, hey, come talk to us, or hey, hi, and he was gonna go talk to them, but the security guard stopped him, and yet he was still wearing the blindfold. And that's the thing, like, I think also if he never learned how to control his emotions, he could always just wear the blindfold, because obviously he's gotten used to it. And even though it sucks, it's worth it to just have friends and have people there with you. You could just never take off the blindfold. You can still have friends, it's just you have to learn how to control those eyes, and you can't let people see them. And letting people see them is, through the blindfold, is extremely hard, because the only time we've ever seen any type of like see-through of the eyes is at the very the second to last episode, I think, or is a couple episodes before the finale of Emerald Mine Street. Eren's eyes like pierce through the blindfold, and you can see it, like it's super bright, but that's like, he was absolutely outraged, like it was insane. He was livid, he was insane. But that would never happen in a case scenario like that with just people around them. So honestly, just never taking off the blindfold could have been a solution to this problem too. But I guess the dad was afraid that he would get close to people and then he would take off his blindfold, and then then he'd mess up, and then people would see his eyes and people would question why his eyes were red. And it's a lot of trust issues, I'd say. A lot of like not communicating very well, or not like, there's not a lot of solution solving. It's more of like, let's hide it. Let's not actually work together and try to fix this. We need to, at least from what I've seen, there's never been any actual like tutoring on how to actually control this thing that he has, this gift. It's kind of like Elsa. She has like this power to like control, you know, the ice and stuff. But she like can hurt people, kind of like in Eren's scenario. But eventually she learns, like, oh, by the power of, like, you know, loving somebody, at least that's what I remember of it, that she can, like, learn to control it whenever she wants. But that's the problem. Eren actually did. He found it the same exact way because he found it through Aphmau, but on his own, he doesn't know, and he needs to learn to control that, which obviously the dad has not taken any time to do, at least from what we've seen in the flashbacks. So that's something that could have been a resolution or something to solve the problems of why he can't take off the blindfold or have any friends. Because it's just like learning how to control, like, anxiety. Like, you have to learn how to take breaths, and you have to learn what triggers you and what doesn't. And you have to learn how to compose yourself and bring you back down, ground yourself. And when Eren doesn't know how to do that, it makes the likability of him actually doing it accidentally higher because he doesn't know how to help himself or what causes this thing. So, oh my gosh, I don't know why, but this is really creepy to me. I just feel like his eyes are too far apart. Anyways, yeah, that's kind of my rant about Eren's eyes, I think. Yeah, that's my rant about Eren's eyes. Tell me what you guys think about, this whole, like, Ultima Eren eyes kind of situation. What could have Eren done to fix this problem with his eyes? Did the dad make the right decision, or did he not? Was he too protective? But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye!